At dinner, my sister's son smacked my child's plate to the floor and said, "He doesn't deserve real food." I stayed silent. Later, my sister texted, "If you can't take a joke, stay away." I replied, "No problem. I'm ending the mortgage transfers in the morning." By 8 a.m., the family chat was exploding. 29 calls, voicemails, and panic. You know, sometimes in life, you hit a breaking point. A single moment where something inside you just snaps. For me, it wasn't just a plate shattering on the floor that night. It was 6 years of quiet sacrifice, a lifetime of being invisible, all finally exploding in a silent rage I never knew I had. My name is Evan, and I'm 37 years old. If there's one thing I've learned about family, it's this: they will take everything you offer, and then some, always asking for more. For most of my adult life, I was the one they called when rent was short, the emergency fund they tapped without a second thought. I was the safety net stretched so thin, you'd think it would tear, but somehow I never did. My parents always praised me for being dependable, and my sister Rebecca even called me her rock. What they really meant was that I paid quietly and disappeared when the celebration started. Rebecca is 4 years younger than me, and she was always the golden child. I remember when we were kids, I saved my birthday money for 3 months just to buy a bicycle. I was so proud. My dad patted my head and said I was responsible. But 2 weeks later, Rebecca decided she wanted a scooter. My parents sold my bike to help cover the cost. When I asked why, my mother simply said Rebecca needed it more because she had friends to ride with. I didn't argue. I learned early that my role wasn't to shine. It was to provide. When Rebecca graduated college, she wanted to buy a house. She had a decent job, but her credit score was, well, let's just say weak, and her savings were practically non-existent. My parents sat me down at the kitchen table, the very same table where I used to do my homework alone while they went to Rebecca's dance recitals. My father, hands folded, explained that Rebecca needed help with her mortgage payments. Just for a few years, he said, until she gets on her feet. My mother added, "It's what family does." I was 31. I'd been working 2 jobs, busting my butt, saving every penny for a down payment on my own place. I lived in a small apartment with peeling paint and a heater that only worked on Tuesdays. I wanted something better, desperately. But I looked at my parents, at the expectation etched onto their faces, and I just nodded. I said yes. 6 years. 6 long years. I paid Rebecca's mortgage. $2,100 every single month. I wired the money on the first, without fail. I skipped vacations. I drove a car with a cracked windshield and duct tape holding the side mirror. I wore the same winter coat for 4 seasons because I simply couldn't afford a new one. My son Lucas, who's 6 now, once asked me why we never went to the beach like Aunt Rebecca did. I told him we would go someday. I didn't tell him that someday kept getting pushed further and further away because I was funding someone else's dreams. Rebecca never said thank you. Not once. She'd send me her mortgage statements with a smiley face emoji and a message like, "You're the best." My parents, meanwhile, would praise her for being independent and successful. At family dinners, they'd toast to her career, her beautiful home, her perfectly decorated living room. No one ever toasted to me. No one ever asked how I was managing. I was just the wallpaper in the family portrait, present, but utterly invisible. Then Lucas came along, and everything changed. When he was born, I made a silent promise to myself. I would give him the childhood I never had. I wanted him to feel valued. I wanted him to know his father was more than just a checkbook. But the mortgage payments never stopped. Rebecca's texts never stopped. My parents' expectations never stopped. And slowly, I felt myself shrinking back into that same invisible role I'd played my entire life. I thought that's just how family worked. I thought loyalty meant sacrifice. I thought love meant paying without keeping score. I was wrong. One Saturday evening, Rebecca invited us over for dinner. Her house, as always, was beautiful. Granite countertops, hardwood floors, a chandelier sparkling like something out of a magazine. I walked in, holding Lucas's hand, and he looked around with wide, amazed eyes. Rebecca greeted us at the door with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She gave me a quick hug and mumbled it was good to see us. Her son Tyler was 12. He was tall for his age, with the same smug expression Rebecca wore when she got her way. Tyler barely even glanced at Lucas, muttering something about little kids being annoying before disappearing into the living room. My parents arrived a few minutes later. My mother kissed Rebecca on the cheek, complimenting her new curtains. My father shook my hand like I was a distant acquaintance. Dinner was served at a long oak table. Rebecca had made roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. It smelled incredible. Lucas sat next to me, his little legs swinging under the chair, so excited. He loved family gatherings because they were so rare for us. I wanted this to be a good memory for him. We were halfway through the meal when it happened. Tyler, sitting across from Lucas, had been quiet, just pushing food around his plate. Then, without a word, he reached across the table and knocked Lucas's plate straight to the floor. The crash was loud. Chicken, potatoes, green beans, they splattered everywhere, across the polished hardwood. The plate shattered into 3 pieces. The room went absolutely silent. Tyler leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and said with a sneer, "He doesn't deserve real food." The words hung in the air like smoke. Lucas's face crumpled. His bottom lip trembled, and I saw tears welling in his eyes. But he didn't cry. He just stared at the mess on the floor. I felt my chest tighten, my hands clenched into fists under the table. I looked at Rebecca. She glanced at Tyler, then at me, and just shrugged. "Tyler, that wasn't nice," she said. Her voice was flat. She didn't sound sorry. She sounded annoyed that the moment was awkward. My father cleared his throat and immediately changed the subject, asking Rebecca about her promotion at work. My mother laughed at something Rebecca said. And just like that, the moment passed. They moved on. I got up from my chair, grabbed a dish towel, and knelt on the floor to clean up the mess. Lucas slid off his chair and, with trembling hands, tried to help me pick up the broken pieces. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip that table over and demand an apology. I wanted to grab Tyler by the shoulders and teach him what respect meant. But I stayed quiet. I cleaned the floor, threw away the food, and sat back down. Lucas climbed into my lap and buried his face in my chest. I rubbed his back and whispered that it was okay, but it wasn't. Nothing about that moment was okay. We left an hour later. Rebecca walked us to the door, said it was nice to have us over. She didn't mention what Tyler had done. She didn't apologize. My parents waved from the driveway and told me to drive safe. I buckled Lucas into his car seat, and he asked me why Tyler was so mean. I told him some people just didn't know how to be kind. He nodded and closed his eyes. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. By the time we got back to the apartment, Lucas was asleep. I carried him inside and tucked him into bed. Then I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at my phone. At 10:47 p.m., Rebecca sent me a message. It was short. "If you can't take a joke, stay away from family events." I read it 3 times. My jaw clenched. My heart pounded. I typed a response, deleted it, typed again. I went through a dozen drafts before I finally settled on one sentence. I sent it at 11:03 p.m., no problem. "I'm ending the mortgage transfers in the morning." I set my phone on the coffee table, leaned back, and closed my eyes. For the first time in 6 years, I felt something close to relief. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the dinner in my mind. The crash of the plate, the look on Lucas's face, Rebecca's dismissive shrug, the way my parents pretended my son didn't matter. Lucas deserved better than that. I deserved better than that. I thought about all the years I'd spent being dependable. I thought about those mortgage payments. $2,100 every single month. I did the math in my head. 6 years, 72 months, $151,200. I had given Rebecca over $150,000. And in return, she let her son humiliate my child and called it a joke. I grabbed my phone and opened my banking app. I scrolled through my transaction history. There it was. Month after month. Transfers to Rebecca's account. Everyone labeled mortgage. I felt sick. I had sacrificed so much. And for what? For a sister who didn't respect me. For parents who praised her and ignored me. For a family that saw me as nothing more than a wallet. I got out of bed, walked to the kitchen, and made myself a cup of coffee even though it was past midnight. I sat at the small table and opened my laptop. I logged into my bank account and navigated to the recurring payment section. Rebecca's mortgage transfer was at the top, scheduled for the first of every month. Automatic, reliable, just like me. I hovered the mouse over the cancel button. My finger trembled. Part of me wanted to stop. Part of me wanted to call Rebecca and say I was sorry for overreacting. Part of me wanted to go back to being invisible. But then I thought about Lucas. I thought about the tears he held back. I thought about the way he asked me why Tyler was mean. I thought about the future I wanted for him. A future where he was valued. A future where his father wasn't a doormat. I clicked the button. The screen refreshed. A confirmation message appeared. Recurring payment canceled. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I felt lighter. I felt free. I also felt terrified. I knew what was coming. I knew Rebecca would panic. I knew my parents would call. I knew there would be anger and guilt trips and accusations. But I also knew I was done. I was done being the emergency fund. I was done being the safety net. I was done being invisible. I finished my coffee and went back to bed. This time I fell asleep. Rebecca and I grew up in a small house on the edge of town. It wasn't much, but it was home. My parents worked hard, and they loved us. At least, I thought they loved us equally. It took me years to realize that love in my family was conditional. When I was 16, I saved money from my part-time job at the grocery store to buy a laptop for school. I finally had enough. I brought it home so proud. My father looked at it and nodded, saying I was responsible. 2 months later, Rebecca decided she wanted to join a dance program. It was expensive. My parents sat me down and asked if I could lend them the money I had left over. It's just a loan, they said. We'll pay you back. I gave them the money. Rebecca joined the dance program. I never saw that money again. When I graduated high school, I was accepted into a good college. I had scholarships, but still needed money for books and housing. My parents said they would help. But 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, Rebecca announced she wanted to study abroad for a semester. My parents redirected the money they'd saved for me. They said Rebecca's opportunity was once in a lifetime. They said I could take out loans. I did. I graduated with debt. Rebecca graduated with Instagram photos from Paris. At 24, I got my first real job. I started saving for a car. My old one had died, and I was taking the bus every day. I was so close to my goal when Rebecca called. She'd been in a car accident. Her insurance didn't cover the repairs. She needed $3,000. My parents called me the same day. Family helps family, they said. I wired her the money. I kept taking the bus for another year. Every time I gave, they took. Every time I sacrificed, they moved on. I was the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who never caused problems. And because I never caused problems, they never noticed when I was drowning. When Lucas was born, I thought things would change. I thought my parents would see me as more than just a bank account. I thought Rebecca would finally appreciate what I had done for her. But nothing changed. They celebrated Rebecca's promotions and her new furniture. They forgot Lucas's first birthday. They canceled plans with me to attend Rebecca's housewarming party. Sitting in that dark kitchen after dinner, I realized I had been invisible my entire life. I had played the role they gave me, and they had never once asked if I was okay. That realization hurt more than the plate hitting the floor. I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. My phone was buzzing. I picked it up and saw 17 missed calls. 14 were from Rebecca. 3 were from my mother. There were 12 text messages. I didn't read them. I got up, made breakfast for Lucas, and helped him get ready for school. Lucas was quiet. He picked at his cereal, then asked if we were going to Aunt Rebecca's house again. I told him no. He looked relieved. I dropped him off at school and drove to work. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket. I ignored it. At 9 o'clock, I parked my car and walked into the office. My coworker Sarah asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. At 9:47 a.m., my phone rang. It was my father. I answered. Evan, what the hell is going on? He said, his voice sharp. Good morning to you too, Dad. Rebecca called us in a panic. She said you canceled her mortgage payment. Is that true? Yes. There was a long silence. Then he spoke again, slower this time, like he was talking to a child. You need to fix this now. Her payment is due in 3 days. If it bounces, she could lose the house. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. That's not my problem. Evan, this is not a joke. You have been helping her for years. You cannot just stop. I can. And I did. Why? Because of some stupid thing that happened at dinner? Tyler is a kid. Kids say dumb things. You're being dramatic. I felt my jaw tighten. I sat up straight and spoke slowly, clearly. Tyler humiliated my son. Rebecca called it a joke. You and Mom sat there and did nothing. I am done being the family ATM. I am done being invisible. If Rebecca cannot afford her house, that is her problem, not mine. My father sputtered. He started to say something, but I cut him off. I have to go. I have work to do. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt strong. I felt powerful. At 11:15 a.m., Rebecca called. I let it ring. She called again. At 11:20, 11:24, and 11:30. I blocked her number. At noon, my mother called. I answered. Evan, please, she said, her voice soft, pleading. Rebecca is beside herself. She made a mistake. Tyler made a mistake. But you cannot punish her like this. She's your sister. And Lucas is my son. Did you think about that when you sat there and watched him get humiliated? It was just a childish prank. You are overreacting. No, Mom. I am finally reacting. For 6 years, I paid Rebecca's mortgage. I gave up vacations, savings, and my own stability so she could live in a house she couldn't afford. And she repaid me by letting her son treat my child like garbage. I am done. Evan, please think about the family. I am thinking about my family. Lucas, that is my family. Rebecca can figure out her own bills. I ended the call. My chest felt tight, but I didn't regret it. I went back to work. I answered emails. I attended a meeting. I ate lunch at my desk. My phone kept buzzing. I turned it off. By the time I left the office, I had 29 missed calls and 36 text messages. I didn't check any of them. I picked up Lucas from school, and we went to the park. He played on the swings while I sat on a bench and watched. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. That evening, I turned my phone back on. There was a voicemail from Rebecca. Her voice was shaking. Evan, I am begging you. Please, I will lose everything. Just this 1 month, please. I deleted it. I made dinner. I helped Lucas with his homework. I read him a bedtime story. I tucked him in and kissed his forehead. Then I sat on the couch and stared at my phone. The family group chat had exploded. I opened it. There were 43 messages. Panic, blame, desperation. I turned my phone off again and went to bed. Sunday morning arrived quietly. I woke up early and made pancakes for Lucas. He smiled and told me they were the best pancakes in the world. I believed him. After breakfast, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and a stack of papers I had been avoiding for 6 years. I opened a folder labeled Rebecca Mortgage. Inside were 72 printed bank statements, every transfer I had ever made, every $2,100 payment. I spread them across the table like a map of my own foolishness. I had kept records because some part of me always knew this day might come. I pulled up my email and searched for messages from Rebecca. There were hundreds. Most of them were short, "Thanks for the transfer. You're a lifesaver. Couldn't do this without you." Not one of them mentioned paying me back. Not one of them acknowledged the weight I carried. I opened a new document and started typing. I listed every payment, every date, every amount. I calculated the total, $151,200. I added interest at a modest 5%. The number climbed to $178,400. I saved the document and printed 3 copies. Then I searched for text messages. I found the one Rebecca sent after the dinner. "If you can't take a joke, stay away from family events." I took a screenshot. I found older messages too. Ones where she complained about bills but never thanked me. Ones where she asked for extra money for furniture, vacations, and car repairs. I saved them all. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I called a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Hollis. She had helped a friend of mine with a contract dispute, and he said she was sharp. I explained the situation. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Do you have documentation?" she asked. "Every payment, every email, every text." "Good. Bring everything to my office tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I thanked her and hung up. That evening, I organized the documents into a binder. I labeled each section: bank transfers, emails, text messages, calculations. I felt like a detective building a case against my own family. Monday morning, I dropped Lucas off at school and drove to Patricia's office. It was a small building with clean white walls and dark wood furniture. She greeted me with a firm handshake and led me to a conference room. I laid the binder on the table. She spent 30 minutes reviewing everything, making notes on a yellow legal pad. Finally, she looked up at me. "This is solid," she said. "You have proof of every payment. You have written evidence of her acknowledging the help. If she tries to claim this was a gift, we can argue otherwise. If she tries to pressure you, we can send a cease and desist letter. If she tries to sue you for stopping payments, we can countersue for repayment with interest." I nodded. My throat felt tight. "What do you want the outcome to be?" she asked. I thought about Lucas. I thought about the plate. I thought about 6 years of invisibility. I want her to leave me alone. I want my parents to stop calling. I want boundaries. If they push, I want them to know I am serious. Patricia nodded. She tapped her pen on the legal pad. "I will draft a letter. It will outline the full amount you have paid, the cessation of future payments, and a demand that they cease all contact unless it is to arrange repayment. I will also include a clause about harassment. If they continue to pressure you, we can escalate. Does that work?" "Yes." She smiled. It was a small smile, but it felt like validation. "Give me 2 days. I will have the letter ready. In the meantime, do not respond to any calls, texts, or emails from them. Document everything they send, but do not engage." I left her office feeling like I had taken my power back. I drove to a coffee shop and sat by the window. I checked my phone. The family group chat had more messages. My mother was begging me to reconsider. My father was threatening to cut me out of the family. Rebecca was spiraling. She had called her bank. They told her the payment would bounce. She had 3 days to fix it. I turned my phone off and drank my coffee. For the first time in 6 years, I was not rushing to fix someone else's problem. Wednesday arrived like a storm I had been watching form on the horizon. I woke up and checked my email. Patricia had sent the letter. It was 3 pages long, professional, cold, devastating. The letter outlined every payment I had made. It listed the total amount with interest. It stated that all future payments were permanently ceased. It demanded that Rebecca, my parents, and any other family members cease all contact with me unless it was to arrange a formal repayment plan. It included a section about harassment and legal consequences. At the bottom, Patricia's signature sat next to her bar number like a stamp of authority. I forwarded the letter to Rebecca's email at 8:01 a.m. I forwarded it to my parents at 8:02 a.m. Then I posted it in the family group chat at 8:05 a.m. I added a single sentence: "This is my final statement on the matter." I set my phone on the table and made breakfast. Lucas asked me what I was smiling about. I told him I was just happy. He grinned and said he was happy too. By 8:30 a.m., my phone was exploding. Calls, texts, voicemails. I muted everything. At 9 a.m., I received a notification from my bank. Rebecca had tried to reverse one of the old transfers. The bank flagged it as suspicious and denied the request. I laughed. She was scrambling. At 10:47 a.m., my mother left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking. "Evan, this is cruel. This is not who you are. Rebecca is going to lose her house. Your father and I cannot afford to. Help her. Please, for the love of God, please fix this." I deleted it. At 12:15 p.m., Rebecca sent an email. The subject line was, Please read. I opened it. It was long, desperate. She apologized for Tyler's behavior. She said she didn't realize how much I had been helping her. She said she would pay me back. She said she needed just one more month. I did not respond. At 2 p.m., my father called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. "You are a selfish bastard," he said, his voice cold. "Goodbye, Dad." I hung up and blocked the number. At 3:30 p.m., Patricia called me. She sounded pleased. Rebecca's lawyer contacted me. She said she wants to negotiate. What does that mean? It means she knows you have the upper hand. She cannot afford to lose the house, and she cannot afford to fight you in court. She is willing to sign a repayment agreement. I felt a surge of satisfaction. What are the terms? She will acknowledge the debt. She will agree to a repayment plan of $1,000 per month for the next 15 years. She will agree to cease all contact unless it relates to the repayment. And she will agree that failure to pay will result in a lien on her property. I closed my eyes. It was perfect. Send me the agreement. I will sign it. That evening, I received the signed agreement via email. Rebecca had signed it. My parents had signed as witnesses. The lawyer had notarized it. It was done. I sat on the couch and stared at the document. 6 years of payments, 6 years of invisibility, and now a binding agreement that turned the tables completely. Lucas walked into the living room and climbed onto my lap. "Daddy, are you okay?" he asked. I hugged him and kissed the top of his head. "I am more than okay, buddy. I am free." 6 months passed. Life changed in ways I didn't expect. Rebecca's first payment arrived on time, $1,000. I deposited it into a savings account I had opened for Lucas. Every month, like clockwork, the payment arrived. Rebecca didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't email. The agreement had worked. My parents stopped reaching out. They tried once, 2 months after the letter. My mother sent a card for Lucas's birthday. Inside she wrote a short note. "We miss you. Please forgive us." I threw it away. I didn't need their forgiveness. I needed my peace. I used the money I had been sending to Rebecca to move into a better apartment. It had 2 bedrooms, a working heater, and windows that let in actual sunlight. Lucas loved it. He decorated his room with posters of dinosaurs and superheroes. He invited friends over for the first time. He smiled more. I started therapy. I needed to unpack years of conditioning. I needed to understand why I had allowed myself to be invisible for so long. My therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Ava Patel, told me I had been trained to believe my value was tied to my usefulness. She said breaking that cycle was one of the hardest things a person could do. I believed her. One evening, I was sitting on the couch reading a book when Lucas came over and sat next to me. "Daddy, can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Why don't we see Grandma and Grandpa anymore?" I set the book down and looked at him. His eyes were wide and curious. I thought about lying. I thought about saying they were busy, but I decided he deserved the truth. Sometimes people in our family don't treat us the way we deserve to be treated. And when that happens, it's okay to step away and protect ourselves. Grandma and Grandpa didn't treat us well, so I decided we needed space. Lucas nodded slowly. "Like when Tyler knocked my plate down?" he asked, quietly. "Exactly like that," I confirmed. "I'm glad we don't see him anymore," Lucas said. I hugged him. I told him he was the best thing that had ever happened to me. He hugged me back and said I was the best dad in the world. A few weeks later, I ran into an old family friend, Margaret, at the grocery store. She had known my parents for years. She pulled me aside and spoke quietly. "I heard what happened with Rebecca," she said. "Your mother told me." I tensed. I waited for the guilt trip, the lecture about family loyalty. Instead, Margaret smiled. "Good for you," she said. "I always thought they took advantage of you. I'm glad you finally stood up for yourself." I was stunned. I thanked her. She patted my arm and walked away. That moment stayed with me. It reminded me that not everyone would see me as the villain. Some people understood. Rebecca's house didn't get foreclosed. She managed to keep it by cutting expenses and taking a second job. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she was struggling, but surviving. I didn't feel guilty. I felt relieved. She was learning what it meant to carry her own weight. 1 year after that dinner, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Rebecca. There was no return address. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. The letter was short. Evan, I know you will probably not read this, but I need to say it anyway. I am sorry. I am sorry for taking you for granted. I am sorry for letting Tyler treat Lucas the way he did. I am sorry for calling it a joke. I was wrong. I have spent the last year working 2 jobs and barely keeping my head above water. And I finally understand what you went through. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did and I am sorry. I folded the letter and set it on the table. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt nothing. The apology was too late. The damage was done. Lucas walked into the kitchen and asked if we could go to the park. I said yes. We spent the afternoon on the swings. He laughed. I laughed. The sun was warm and the sky was clear. That evening, I threw Rebecca's letter away. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need closure from her. I had already found my closure. I had found it the moment I clicked cancel on that mortgage payment. I had found it the moment I stopped being invisible. I looked at Lucas sleeping peacefully in his bed, and I knew I had made the right choice. I had protected him. I had protected myself. I had taken back my power. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely free.